Hello there, and a very warm welcome to this Womb Wisdom episode with me, Melanie Swan of thesacredwomb.com and Rachel Eyre of thehealthywomb.com. In this episode, we are discussing natural sanitary options and how your current sanitary option may be making your period worse and what you can do about it. So Rachel's going to be talking from her experience and perspective from fertility massage and nutrition. And I'm going to be talking from my experience and perspective on my background in drama therapy and shamanic and medicine woman things. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, Rach. So we're going to start off by talking about the general, the popular options that we've got and what they do and what they can do. So, Rach, hello, first of all. You get a chance to talk now. Could you start off by telling us what's in tampons? Because that's not actually on the box.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. I'm going to tell you actually how I got to this point. So anyone that knows me know I had massive period problems for years, and I did the nutritional side, I did the fertility massage side, and one of the things that came out of the fertility massage course was what's in a tampon. So I'd gotten my period pain right down to mild backache, which if you knew where I was before, pretty amazing just to have mild backache. The final thing I thought I'd try getting rid of tampons and sanitary towels, and then went on to using a cup. My pain disappeared. Nothing. That was the very last bit of pain. So it's made a difference for me, and it's made a huge difference to my clients that I've recommended trying different things to, and they've found their own things that work for them. So when I then went in and did my evidence-based research, which anyone who knows me knows I love doing my studies, tampons actually have a lot more in them than you would think. So
They're not just cotton wool.
No, they're not. So first of all, yes, there's the TSS, toxic shock syndrome risk, which is not being talked about much these days, and it's still a problem. There are still women, in hospital having legs amputated or even dying from this. You can just do a quick Google search on the news. So that's number one. But the other problems that people don't discuss, so first of all, the tampons are bleached. The bleaching process leaves something called dioxins in the tampons. So in some women, this can have an inflammatory effect. When you've got inflammation in the body, inflammation itself isn't bad. We need it as part of the healing process. It tells our body to heal. But excess inflammation sort of triggers this negative feedback loop and causes us to feel more pain. And there was one study done on women with endometriosis. Now, we've all got this layer of fat on our bellies. It's an important layer of fat. It's an organ in its own right. I can talk about that another time. But in that layer of fat, when they biopsied it, they found women with endometriosis had higher levels of dioxins in that sample of fat than women who didn't have endometriosis. Endometriosis is a very complicated condition with many different aspects, but this is just one to look into. So that fascinated me because there's no other way that we can get dioxins into our body. You don't eat bleached foods.
No, even then, it would be very difficult to reach like the fatty tissue on your belly.
Yeah, well, it's absorbed into the fat, so there's not. I can't see any other way, and the researchers couldn't see any other way that this could be, these dioxins could be getting into our body. So that's number one. Number two, the cotton that's used. So cotton, you've got organic and non-organic. Non-organic means it's sprayed with something called glyphosate, which is I can't remember if it's a pesticide or a herbicide. It's a really, really common one that's used by a lot of people now. This is causing massive problems in the environment. So the crops are sprayed, it rains, it goes into streams. They're finding frogs with eggs in their testicles.
Oh.
It's quite painful for a froggy if your testicles that big and you've got that much worth of eggs. There was a TED talk done on it actually, which was quite worrying. But these are known as endocrine disruptors, and particularly in humans, there's xenoestrogens. So when you're inserting it, you're inserting something covered in substances that have a xenoestrogen effect on the body. these aren't real estrogens, but the body thinks that they are, so they act in a very similar way. So if you have any sign of estrogen dominance, I look at all the possible xenoestrogens going into the body. Estrogen dominance can be where you have heavy periods, you have heavy bleeds throughout the cycle, you have PMS, PMT, period pain, excess cramping, the dark icky stuff coming through in the bleed. All these are signs of estrogen dominance.
Okay.
I don't know anyone that has had any kind of positive effect from estrogen dominance.
It doesn't sound very...
So these are things that we just generally don't want. And then number 3, I promise
there's
you.
more. Okay.
This is just the stuff we know about, I would like to point out, because we don't know all the ingredients in them. Number 3...
The companies who make them will not declare what's in them.
No, and there was one US politician that really tried hard to campaign for this, and they still won't. But number 3, the rayon. So cotton on its own is something that TSS can grow on. I'm just going to talk a little bit about TSS. TSS comes from a bacteria we have in our bodies anyway. It's naturally found in the womb. But for that bacteria to grow and become a problem, you need a culture medium.
Like something for it to grow on?
Yes. Yeah. You need to... Absorbent surfaces are very good. So cotton isn't a great culture medium on its own, but rayon is a brilliant culture medium in comparison to the cotton. I'm not saying every time you put rayon up there you will get TSS, you won't, but it's a much higher risk than cotton on its own.
Yeah, okay.
In comparison to the two. So the rayon acts as a culture medium, but also when you remove it, rayon fibres are left behind, and there was a survey done with UK gynecologists who said often when they do smear tests, if it's straight after someone's had a bleed, you can see the little fibres in there. So, and your vagina isn't smooth on the inside, it's got lots of little pockets called pockets of Shaw's and lots of different folds and things, which is not to have. Anything that can have bits that break off can get stuck in there, and you can get more yeast infections and things like that when you've got anything left behind that shouldn't really be in there.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So
okay,
that's my point. That's just from the stuff we know, and that's not that difficult really to find that information around if you ever want to dig around on the internet. But that's why I don't like them. But Melanie, I'd love to hear what your perspective is and why you do or don't like tampons.
I'll keep this short because everyone watching can probably already deduce that they're really not the great thing to do to yourself. No. So I just want to tell you as well that I have not used tampons for years because my body rejected them. I started trying to use them when I was about 16, hilariously.
What do you mean by rejected?
My muscles pushed them back out.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know why. I just thought I couldn't use them, but it was a natural thing that my body, I think I just have a very sensitive body to that sort of thing. I had a piercing in my eyebrow and in my belly button, and within weeks my body had recognised them as something that wasn't meant to be there, and it had grown them out. It pushed them out literally, so that they were just on by a thread. I had to take it out. So
wow.
I tried using them. As I guess most women did, the classic where you read that thing that's in the box and it's a funny diagram. You turn it. I turned it all the different ways round, and anyway, I would put one in, and within a couple of hours it would just start coming out. This is not because I had a massive vagina or anything. It's just I could feel my muscles kind of gradually massaging this thing out. So it's really cool that my body knew, not cool, don't want this. So I was feel very lucky that way. But what I'm concerned about with tampons is what the energetic, the emotional message is to our own bodies. So our period is a natural thing. It's programmed in our bodies. It's meant to happen. So what we're doing by putting a tampon is saying, okay, I know this is happening, body. I'm not really into it. So I want to carry on my life as normal, and this little thing enables me to kind of forget about my period, to be honest. That suits me fine. Off we go. So if you can imagine a man saying this to a woman, like, can't you just, and they do, because we as women don't know how to communicate what our periods really are. So if imagine a man was saying to you, like, why can't you just shut up and get on with it, stop moaning, just can't you just have this flat thing and not this cycle, and we'd go bonkers. But that's the message. Tampon sales are very high. So that's the message that a lot of women are giving our own bodies, which is basically stop it. A fantastic way of portraying this is I have a friend, Nick, who I will I show this video to. He's a crystal healer. He works with lots of women. He's very, very sensitive. And I explained to him what a tampon did, how it kind of basically poisons our bodies. And he said, oh my God, I would not tell my vagina to shut up. That's the best accent I can do, by the way, Nick. But he said, you should make a video and tell people about this, because he was kind of outraged. And I've talked to a few other men about it, and they've said, like, men wouldn't put up with this crap. And I just thought, oh, this is awful, really. So basically, we're telling ourselves to shut up and stop it. Mm. If anyone's in any doubt, if you would use a tampon now, especially the standard ones, the bleached ones that come in the shops, just put a tampon in your mouth for 30 seconds and see how that feels.
That sounds disgusting.
Well, our mouth is very similar to our vagina. It's very sensitive and absorbent. So if you're happy to put a tampon in your mouth for 3 hours at a time, you'll see that it cuts off the oxygen. It also absorbs the natural saliva that's in our mouth, so it absorbs our vaginal liquids that should be there anyway. And also it stops that lovely flush through that the blood, that the Niagara effect, I call it, creates. And the other reason why is that as I've got much more sensitive now to what goes on during my period, I can feel the blood running down the walls of my vagina. And obviously anyone knows that if you gently caress the walls of your vagina, it's it's very nice. So just the other day I was sitting on the toilet and I could feel a piece coming out, and it slid down the left wall of my vagina, and I let's just say I had a period orgasm.
Wow.
Yeah,
I did not know that was possible.
Neither did I until it started happening. And that's part of the way we can really reach ecstatic, lush states during our period. I mean, then the cervix can start pulsing and everything starts warming up, which loosens everything, and the blood comes out really, really quite quickly. I'm down to about a day and a half now, so.
Wow.
I'm not trying to get it short.
No.
It's just naturally going. So, That's tampons. I think we've covered tampons.
Yeah, actually we haven't. There's something else I forgot to mention.
Really?
Yeah.
It should be just a whole tampon thing, great.
Yeah. So when I mentioned about bleach and the dioxins, it also changes the vaginal pH.
Oh.
So your vagina is more acidic at the beginning of the month than when you start having fertile fluid being produced. It changes the pH so that sperm can survive, which is why we produce it. So it's nourishing, they can survive right up to ovulation, and then it should be more acidic again. And when you use anything bleached up there, you're slowly changing the overall pH of your vagina. So if you're actively trying to conceive, that is something to consider, because it isn't a case of you put it up, it changes, you take it out, it changes back. These changes are small and they happen over a long period of time.
Okay. I think we're all getting the message here.
Yeah. They're not the nicest things in the world.
So, I mean, I'm presuming that sanitary towels have roughly the same things in.
They do. They obviously don't contain cotton. They do contain, though, lots of fragrances. Anything where you see the word fragrance is generally something called a phthalate. A wonderful word beginning with PHTH. And that's another endocrine disruptor. So it's another xenoestrogen. Everything I said before about estrogen dominance, we're thinking again. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Melanie, if you've ever used the standard ones. They stink as soon as blood touches them. They don't smell nice if they're deodorized. They stink.
They don't smell nice.
No.
I mean, I did try the fragrance ones once, and I mean, I like the smell of my own blood anyway. I mean, it's kind of like a mild iron thing.
I can't say I notice mine, but I notice when I'm wearing a standard pad.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm wearing a nappy.
Yeah.
It's sweaty. It's got plastic in.
Yes.
I really don't like it at all. And also, when I was using them, I mean, this is for anyone who thinks it might be difficult to use cotton pads, which we're going to talk about. I travelled through India on my own backpacking, and I was using cotton pads, and I would rinse them out. And they don't sell tampons in India anyway, which is awesome. But they do sell these huge sanitary towels. Literally, they kind of come up to your belly and round your back and stuff.
Oh wow!
Like I've never seen anything like it, to be honest. But they did sell some smaller ones that I found, and yeah, on the days when my washing didn't quite work out, I got caught short and would buy the plastic sanitary pads, and what I would end up with, within minutes, really, is this funny dull ache. Like it'd be like a very light bruise feeling. And of course, when you're sitting down, you can feel that and stuff. I was just like, what is happening here? Because my body is not liking something at all. And then I would, take the plastic one out and shower and leave it a few hours, and that dull ache would go. So I don't know what's in them, of course, because the ingredients aren't on the box. And it was having a weird effect on my body. So I really didn't use them again.
And I've seen several Facebook posts being circulated about whatever it is that turns the blood into a gel, having caused, I think it was 57 cancer deaths or something. But I don't know whether that's true or not. I did try and do some research, and there's no evidence to support that, but there is evidence that the gel used is an irritant that shouldn't be put in contact with your private parts.
Okay.
Because you still absorb everything that's down there.
Okay. So this brings us on to what can we do? Like, what are our options? Because every woman's different, and we all like to develop our own way of working with our periods, and different things suit us for different times in our lives. So let's take it step by step. So what if you've been using tampons, or indeed cotton unbleached tampons? What would be the first step towards doing something great for your body?
Yeah, the first step, you can find organic unbleached tampons and pads. They are there. You can find them very easily on a Google search. That would be number one. If you're completely like, I like wearing a tampon, I like wearing a pad. That would be number one if you're not open to anything else.
Okay.
If you're a tampon user and you don't like the idea of cotton pads, which we'll come on to in a little while, there is something called a menstrual cup.
Woo! Ooh. Come on, bring it out,
yes.
Please.
Melanie loves this. This is my menstrual cup. These are samples, which is why they come on a ring.
It's a headdress.
It could be used as a headdress.
It is a headdress. Many times I've spoken to Rachel on Skype and she rocks up with a headdress on. I'm the May Queen, she said last time.
Yeah, I like the flower headdresses that May Queens wear. Yeah. So they're really soft. I'm going to hold it up to the camera for those of you that are watching the video. They're soft silicone, so they're non-absorbent, so you don't get the TSS risk from the silicone itself. And they're bendy, they're flexible, they're really super easy to clean. You essentially fold them like a tampon. Push it up. Yeah, and it literally just collects the blood. It's medical grade silicone. You do have to buy real ones, not the cheap knockoffs. £1 has to be said, because they do contain all sorts of horrible things in them. And it's quite simple. All you do when you're done is you gently pull it out. You break the seal first before you pull it out. Empty it down the toilet. Give it a wipe round. Reinsert. There's no TSS risk associated with the cups themselves, but there was one case where one lady wore hers continuously for, it was 2 weeks.
Oh.
And it turned out it wasn't medical grade silicone either, because it was a knockoff of a real one, but she didn't know that. But in that case, the blood, because she had 2 weeks worth of the full
I think
period
most people would not leave it for 2 weeks.
Had become the culture medium. So
Yeah.
the blood itself had become the culture medium. Hopefully most people know you should change your sanitary wear a lot more frequently than that.
Every few hours, yeah.
Yeah. So they're much more simpler to use if you're out and about and you don't like the feeling of blood. That's number one. They're not bleached. The colour, I don't like these colour ones because I don't like sticking anything that I don't need to, so for example colour in there, but because it is medical grade silicone, it doesn't leach out.
Okay.
It's sealed in, and you can get them in lots of different sizes. There's lots of different guides as to how to work out what size is right for you. So I tend to find they're a bit Marmite. You either try them once and don't get along with them and hate them, or you persevere for a few days and then you love them. And if you've ever met a menstrual cup user, you'll know about it, because they will tell you it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened in their life. They can't believe how easy it is, how convenient it is, how they don't have all the waste going into the environment. They can't believe how pain-free they are.
I know.
Yeah.
I used to wear a menstrual cup. I have to say I didn't love it that much, because I prefer to let my blood flow out. But I was in Thailand for a while, and I did use a menstrual cup, and it was 40 degrees.
Wow.
So it really helps in hot weather. And also when I'm on my period too, sometimes I just do like to go to the spa and swim. So occasionally I do like to use one just for that.
Yeah.
It's just nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I know plenty of women that seem to be having full-blown affairs with their menstrual cup. They're in love. Well, once you're converted, that's it. But
Yeah.
if you're used to using a tampon because you don't like pads, then it's a good replacement option. They're a bit fiddly to use, but they're a good start, I think.
Yeah.
And that for a lot of people, it enables them, if you work full-time and you're running around a lot, you can switch off from your period a bit if you need to whilst using them.
Okay.
So that's number one. Number two, cotton reusable pad. Loads of people cringe when I say reusable, but they're not that bad. I'm going to show you one. I've not used this one. It's new. It's this gorgeous fluffy cotton.
Fluffy vagina blankets.
Yes,
Oh.
lovely. It feels good. I'm just going to take it apart so you can see it. So you've got this removable absorbent pad.
Whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to give out a shout out to Rachel Hartogs of moontimes.co.uk, and those are from Moontimes. They're from Rachel, and she makes them in her shed in Wales.
She does. I
And
don't know
they're
if you can see the
beautiful.
little label actually with the same Moontimes on there.
Yeah. I use them as well, and they're absolutely beautiful.
They are. They feel amazing. This one I haven't used before because I knew I was going to be showing it on camera. And you just literally pop the snapper closed around your knickers. They feel amazing. They really, really do. You've got no risk of anything. The bit that makes people cringe is what you do with them when they're used. It's really simple. If you're out and about, I take 2 toiletry bags, one with clean ones and one with dirty ones. And in fact, Rachel gives you one on her website if you ever want to go to that one, that I put my clean ones in. You put them in your toiletry bag when you've used them, as long as you take your handbag into the toilet. No one needs to know. And then when you get home, pop them in cold water straight away, and that'll stop the staining. And then you just stick them, once they've soaked for a little while, you stick them in the washing machine with any other wash, and you don't get blood on your other clothes because that came off in the cold water. So that's option number 2.
Okay. Could I put my input in at this stage?
Please do, yes.
Yeah. For me, the natural cotton pads that you've just shown are absolutely fantastic.
They are.
Firstly, they allow your blood to flow down the vaginal walls and out, thus clearing your vaginal passageway, which is very important. Clears the energy of old lovers. It helps you clear out this month. It gives voice to your natural state. And it helps with that downwards flow motion that we feel like, everything's coming out. We get that sensation as well. So it not only helps that pulling sensation helps release on a physical level be enjoyable, but also it pulls our psyche down. It pulls our awareness down to our womb center. So that we can really feel what's going on emotionally, physically, spiritually as well. And that's going to be different for each woman. So I'm not going to go into the kind of emotional aspect too much on this one. But what I will say is that it can be it's a sacred time, and it's beautiful. I'm not saying it's always like happy clappy, but it doesn't have to be. It's just a real internal state. And what I found by bleeding into these pads and then actually being able to see my blood and touch it, because I work from home, I'm self-employed, so I'm always home during my period. So I take the pad out and then I rinse it in the sink, and I fill the sink with blood. So I've got this lovely mix of blood water, and I dip a cup in that and I water my plants with it. And I like seeing the colour of the blood, the quality of it. Are there any clots in there? Is it bright blood? So that I can see, I use it as an indicator of my health.
Yeah, and I ask people what their flows are like in my practice too. So
yeah, and you can see how much has flown out, and and then I really feel like it's helped me take care of myself on a deep level. Yeah, there's self-care, you can do these little bits and this, but this has really made a genuine difference. I really feel like I'm taking care of my blood. I'm honouring my moon time. And then I put them in cold water and rinse them out. And I haven't actually got a washing machine at home right now. We go to the laundrette. So I'm hand washing them. And it feels really, really lovely and like really honourable, to be honest. Like I'm really taking care of this gift that I've been given. And I only got that when I actually started washing the pads myself and using them. So I'm really grateful to Rachel for making such lovely, fluffy vaginal blankets.
They are so soft. I'm kidding you not. You would want a pillow made out of this stuff.
They feel
beautiful.
Absolutely lovely. And you can get ones made out of silk, and you can make your own. Mm-hmm. So I'd encourage you to experiment with that. It might seem a bit like, ooh, at first, or that's a bit like in the Stone Ages or something. But it really is very profound, if I might say that, go that far. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing you did say actually about the flow, I know in traditional Chinese medicine, one of the reasons why they don't like tampons or cup is because they see that it blocks the qi that should be leaving the body during that time.
Yep.
That's really interesting that you say something very similar there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is one other option which I would like to ask you about. Is I've never used it, but I've seen it sold in places, is the sponge.
I'm not the world's biggest fan of the sponge.
Okay.
Several reasons. If you
can we just clarify what the sponge is? It's like an actual sea sponge, right?
Well, you can have two. There's one that is artificial, as in the same stuff that you clean with.
Oh, like a body sponge or something.
And the other one is the natural sponge, which is the sea sponge. So the one that's artificial, that's made of plastics.
Okay, let's just dish that one straight away.
So we get endocrine disruptors, everything else, bisphenol A, blah, 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 even if it says it's BPA free. But both sponges actually, if you don't look after them perfectly, and after a time, if you do look after them perfectly, will break off and leave bits in your vagina, which I don't like, full stop. The natural sea sponge, it does look a lot like a plant, but it's actually the most primitive form of animal. They've been proven to sneeze if you stimulate them with ink. It's very slow sneeze. They've got the beginnings of a nervous system. They do look a bit like plants. So, from that perspective, I don't like the thought of something
A little
being
sponge sneezing in
killed.
your vagina.
Yeah. Just for that purpose. But we'll move away from that ick factor for me right now. And look at natural sponges. So I researched this. Some people say there's no TSS risk. There have been 8 deaths recorded from TSS due to what they call vaginal sponges, because they're not allowed to call them menstrual sponges anymore. And that was in the early 80s. And then on top of that, several of the well-known sponge companies are now not allowed to say use this vaginally or use this for your period, because some people do also use them with spermicide as a natural contraceptive, and I don't like that for the same reasons. I don't think it's ideal for the vaginal health and environment.
Okay.
So if we go into what they found, and there have been several different people saying that they found the same thing when they've analysed them. So they've contained yeast in them.
Okay.
If they're natural, unbleached, they contain yeast, which, if you've ever had thrush that you've tried to get rid of, or any other yeast infection down there, you don't really
you don't want any more yeast.
No.
Yeah.
They're living organisms. They're going to have yeast. We have yeast in us.
Yeah.
You would expect that. Sand. You don't want bits of sand up there. It's not comfortable when you get sand in your underwear at the beach. You've been lying down, you're like, oh God, I've got sand somewhere. That's not comfortable. I wouldn't want that up there. And other general bits of particulate have been found as well. So you'll notice a lot of the websites say, we're not allowed to advertise these for menstrual use, but they're the same ones that we've been selling for years that everyone loves.
Okay.
But I just bear in mind what's been found in them. They've never been retested, and if you bleach them to get rid of all this, then you've got the dioxins from the bleach. So
okay. I think we can move the sponges to one side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the key message we're trying to get out there really is, you don't have to try a cup, you don't have to try these wonderful fluffy vagina blankets. But it's worth just trying them once and seeing how you feel and how it compares to what you felt like before. So really, how do you feel wearing something? Do you feel mild pain? When you take it out, does that pain go? After several cycles trying something different, has that pain decreased?
Yeah.
I think that's the real key thing. Just feel what your body is telling you.
Yeah, I would totally agree. That's what I talk to people about as well. Is like, what's the natural thing that is happening here? Yeah. Does it stop it? Does it make it painful? Because periods aren't meant to be painful.
They're not.
And what option makes you feel good?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, feeling the blood, being able to feel the blood run down my vaginal walls now, and feel my cervix pulsing and heating up sometimes, is actually really, really pleasant, and is starting to make my periods this deeply ecstatic state sometimes.
Absolutely.
Which no one ever told me that was possible. I'm not sure
no
there was anyone around.
To me either. I'm going to be watching out for that.
Yeah, do. So feel free to experiment and see what works for you with your current lifestyle. But even if you do use a moon cup, I would say, don't put it in at night, and let the blood flow out at night at least.
Yeah, and the one other thing that we haven't covered actually with the standard disposable model, one is cost, and 2, the environment.
Oh yeah, they take a long time to degrade, right?
Really, really long time. So you're stopping landfill, and the biggest objection people have when I talk to them about reusables is the upfront cost. So a menstrual cup should cost around £20. I wouldn't buy anything cheaper because they tend to be knockoffs. They're not made of medical silicone, etc.
Okay, so that's about $30, I think.
Roughly.
Yeah.
When you think if you're using tampons, you pay about £5 a month, so £5 a month. That's £60 a year.
Yeah,
so
but that's $100, $100 a year.
Yeah, and a cup lasts anywhere between 5 and 10 years, depending how well you look after it.
Yeah.
So
you save money, you save the environment,
yes.
and you save yourself from
Yes.
this stuff.
A whole week's worth of pads. You're looking. It's a bit more. It's about £90 to £100.
Yeah.
But again, that's still cheaper over the course of a year. It's just an upfront cost rather than spread out.
Yeah.
And even if you buy one at a time and slowly up your collection that way, you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted some more. I was living in Laos, which is this, for people who don't know, is this landlocked small country between Thailand and Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you don't really get natural sanitary pads there. You have to make your own. So I was only there for a few weeks. I'm not a sewer. I didn't have any equipment. So I just cut up a towel. And if you just want to give it a go, you can just cut up a towel and see if you like that way of working. And then if you want to take it even further, sit on the ground, sit on the earth when it's nice and warm and let your blood flow into the earth. I'm going to be, when I get my new place in the Alps, I'm going to be having this secluded little area in the garden that's Melanie's flow area.
Yeah. See, I've heard there are some tribes actually in the US, Native American tribes that do that. They call it bleeding into the earth, and they get their hair cut at the same time as well, because they say it makes their hair grow longer.
Oh, really? I've not tried that.
No.
I might try rubbing it into my hair next time.
Oh no, they don't rub it in. They just throw it in a tube.
I will try anything. I do like dotting my third eye with the blood sometimes. That's quite cool. Although people have probably switched off by now and gone, that's enough, ladies. I think fluffy vagina blankets is far enough.
Yes. But the key thing we want to say is that if you do have period pain, yes, there are lots of things that can cause it. It's not usually straightforward, but there is one way you can reduce it and feel so much better in yourself down there and feel more comfortable. And just try one of these options, even if you